and welcome. We thank you for joining Work Mind Matters Online Connection Session 1, where we focus today on this vital discussion around mental health and wellness in the restaurant industry. This brought to you in partnership with Fair Kitchens. My name is Jenny de Kooker. I am a Principal People and Change Consultant, and today I'm going to be your moderator. We have such an exciting agenda lined up for you today, so I'm going to take you through that very quickly so that you know what to expect. First and foremost, I'm going to introduce Katie Rose. She's going to be taking us through her personal journey. We'll then move into our panel discussion, and I'm going to be asking for all our amazing panelists to be introducing themselves. We've got 5 key critical questions that our panelists will address in the panel discussion for today. And I think you'll be excited to hear what they have to say. From then, we are going to go into handing over to Chef Craig Elliott, and he will then turn our attention to the endorsement video interview with Chef James Causa. Once we conclude that, we're going to go straight into our Q&A, and this is where we're really going to ask everybody on the call today to participate, engage. We want it to be an interactive session, and we really encourage you to put your questions forward. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Katie Rose. Katie is a food writer for Food24 and Eat Out. Katie, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and please, you feel welcome, and we look forward to you sharing your personal journey with us.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie, and I have borderline personality disorder. A lot of people don't know this about me, and it's not because it's a secret, it's just because I don't want it to be the first thing. But since we're all here together to learn and to chat, I thought that's where I would start. So here's a little bit of my story. As well as having BPD, I am also a lifetime restaurateur. I come from a family of chefs, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived, breathed, dreamed about food. We spent our weekends as children in restaurants, polishing cutlery at the back and bussing tables. My first job was serving smoothies at Kauai when I was 16 in high school. And eventually I became the manageress of an award-winning fine dining restaurant. Today I do my dream job. I'm a food writer. I get to speak to people about food and to celebrate our chefs and their talent every single day. And sometimes I think, how did I even get here? And maybe by the end of this conversation, you too will wonder. Let me take you back to 2016. It was July, it was winter in Cape Town, and I was in a horrible place. Mentally, physically, emotionally. I had actually recently decided to leave food behind me for good. Took a new job in a tech startup with some of the most youngest, brightest minds in South Africa. And I thought, wow, this is going to be my future. This is where we kick off. If you think restaurants are hard, try working at a tech startup. There is no price too high for success. My CEO, she was a beautiful woman. I think of her as the Beyonce of tech. And she was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. She made it clear that nothing at all would stand in the way of success. And everything and everyone was disposable. I just turned 30. I was recently dumped. I'd lost some of the most important friends in my life. I did the obvious thing that most of us do. I buried myself in my work. I regularly worked 14-hour days and just stopped taking care of myself. I was fueled on takeaway coffees and peanut butters at my desk and just sheer adrenaline to get me through the day. I was slipping deeper and deeper into a dark depression. And with work taking up all my time, I was increasingly isolated from all the people in my life. One Saturday, I was at home alone and I took a shower, made myself some lunch, I got into bed, I put a movie on, and I decided in that moment that I didn't want to go on. Deciding to kill myself was so easy. That afternoon, I crushed up all my antidepressant medication and swallowed them down piece by piece with a cup of tea. I licked the dust off the table and pulled up the duvet and felt like maybe things were getting better. I lay there for a long time until I couldn't feel my fingers or my toes. My legs started going tingly. When I couldn't really see anymore is when I got scared, and I called a friend to come help me. A week later, I walked into Groote Hospital with a bag and a letter from a doctor. 10 hours later, they were admitting me into the psych ward, and the doors lock behind you, and there's really no going back. This was the start of 9 weeks of hospitalization for me in government hospitals here in Cape Town at various security levels. In the beginning, it's the worst because they say you are a danger to yourself and to others. I think maybe what made it worse is that they put you in a room with other people who are a danger to themselves and to you. It was very scary, but it was also the right place for me to be because it was safe. After a long time in the hospital, I was on medication and I'd done all of my group therapy sessions. We had done yoga and stuck down mosaic tiles and colored in pictures and planted flowers and played with clay and everything else that feels a lot like preschool. But it helped to reset my mind and to reset my body. And I was feeling quite strong. My first step was to find a job. I had no job. I'd been fired from my previous job while I was in hospital. I nearly lost everything. I nearly lost my car. I nearly lost my house. I had no income. And fortunately, the medical bills were quite low. So that was a blessing. And then I turned to the one job that I knew that I could do, mad or otherwise. I could definitely still work in a restaurant. That first week, I got a job. And I met some amazing people. And despite all the fucked upness of the restaurant industry, I learned that we already have so many tools already to help each other gain mental wellness. We just don't know it yet. Beneath the sexing and the drinking and the stealing and the lying and the long hours and the aching of your feet and the creaking of your knees, there's something very special there. We who work in the hospitality industry, we already know how to take care of other people. We do it every single day. We have empathy and understanding. We welcome strangers through our doors and we can communicate with people from around the world. Sometimes we don't even have a language, but we can still smile and make them feel comfortable. We anticipate disasters at the pass and we help each other to sweep up the broken bits and pieces. We carry heavy loads and we help each other carry heavy loads. We laugh through the tough services, and then we come all back tomorrow and do the whole thing again. We are so resilient already. Restaurant people are my people, and they helped me through my recovery and helped me find my way to health and wellness again. I will end with saying we already know how to take care of each other. We just need to remember to also take care of ourselves. Thank you, Jenny.
Katie, thank you so, so much. What a story. Making it feel like we were in that journey, on that journey with you. Thank you for being so brave and bold and taking us along that journey with you. It's truly been inspirational. Katie, thank you so much. We are going to move on to our panel discussion. And as we can see, we're going to start seeing all our amazing panelists popping up on the screen. We are going to start off with some introductions, first of all. So I'm going to actually ask for everybody to come up, and then as I'm going to mention your name, if you could please just in one sentence introduce yourself, so your name, your company, and what was your most favorite food during COVID, and then we'll start off with our questions. So let me maybe kick off with Alison. Alison, can you go first, please, and just do your intro, and then we'll go across the screen, and I'll just take everybody through the introduction. Thank you, Alison.
Morning, everyone. So lovely to be here. I'm Alison Hallett from Work-Mind Matters. I'm an occupational therapist working in mental health. And I have to say, I learned to break bread in lockdown, as I think a lot of other people do. So that was my favorite food, all sorts of different breads.
Thank you, Alison. I'm going to hand over to Karen. Thank you, Karen.
My name is Karen Dudley from the kitchen. My favorite food in lockdown, and always, to be honest, is thin, crispy, seedy fennel toast with lots of cold butter. Always a favorite. Sometimes some eggs, sometimes some caper raisin relish. That's me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Karen. Zaid, do you mind please introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about your favorite food during COVID? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to all of our viewers and our panelists. My name is Zaid Adams. I'm the food and beverage manager at the Silo Hotel down in the waterfront in Cape Town. And I think my favorite lockdown food, which had a lot to do with reflecting everyone's mental state, was anything comfort. So whether it was a stew or a nice roast or a lovely, great roast chicken, anything that would provide sort of comfort food or what we could class as comfort food. And then I developed a unique liking for banana bread during lockdown as well.
No, Zaid.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Zaid. I'm going to ask now for Fazlin, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about your favorite food during COVID. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Fazlin Massey, Faz for short. I am the people and performance leader here at Ocean Basket. And my favorite food during lockdown was everything and anything. So just like Zaid, anything that comforted and satisfied the appetite. And I missed Ocean Basket. So yeah, it was a good cheap meal when we opened up again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Fazlin. Thank you. All right. And last but not least, Liam, can you please just do a quick introduction to you and also tell us a little bit about your favorite food during COVID? Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Liam here from Chef's Warehouse in Tally. Favorite food during lockdown would have been anything shared with family and friends. Yeah, so nothing in particular, just the people I was sharing it with.
Fantastic. Liam, thank you so much for that. All right, so I'm going to ask us to just prepare for our interactive discussion. And we have got 5 key questions, and I think these are absolutely burning platform questions, really just talking deeply into the challenges that the restaurant industry is facing as COVID has impacted. So I'm going to kick off with question 1, and I'm going to ask Zaid if he can please just help us understand, especially from a management, kitchen and front of house perspective, what do you feel is the greatest challenge faced working in the restaurant industry?
Thank you, Jenny. I think in answering that, it's a combination of challenges. We have a front of house, we have a back of house, we have waiters, we have chefs. And so I think they each face some quite unique challenges. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to Katie for that story that really gave me goosebumps. I still have goosebumps thinking about it, but I suspect, Katie, that there are many more stories like that. And there are many more stories that perhaps don't have the happy ending that yours had. And so I hope that out of today, we can get to a place where we can deal with stories like yours, and we can bring that into our workplace, and we can have the kind of happy resolution that we need around those. So what are some of the challenges facing our industry? I think that elevated levels of stress and anxiety are common in all of in all of our workplaces, and it's not unique to us. I did some research, and the World Health Organization, for example, forecast that by 2030, the biggest threat to global health will be depression, and not necessarily diabetes or obesity or any of those things. And so we need to realize that mental illness is a big part of what we are doing, and that anything that we can do that can bring a positive impact to our mental health and wellness is going to have a positive impact on our business. And so let's talk about some of these challenges. I think a lot of them reflect the political landscape that we're in. A lot of them are systemic, and a lot of them will form the basis of ongoing issues. And I think of things like labor brokers and trade unions, and issues of minimum wage versus living wage. And these are all topics that we hear in our industry a lot. And often they relate to the earning power of our people, and they often become existential crises for our workers. When we add to this issues around spatial planning, it means that a large part of our workforce often lives far away from where they need to work, and they spend hours in getting to work, hours in getting home, often running the gauntlet of early morning hours and late nights. And so this all adds to the difficulty of doing the job and has an impact on the mental wellness of our staff. We taught as hospitality people to be warm and welcoming and smiling and always happy. Yet we work in this industry characterized by long hours, antisocial hours, lots of time away from our families, and often easy access to alcohol. And so it's easy to see how we can fall into those traps and fall for all of those things that are there and right in front of us when we need to deal with our stress. And so what we need to find are ways that our workers, ourselves, and everybody that works with us as an outlet to deal with all of these issues. And the fallback is not necessarily the alcohol or the lifestyle that's associated with what we do. I think that the rise of social media has had a huge impact on our industry. The pressure on our chefs to deliver Instagram-worthy plates. Our serving staff will often find themselves on social media, either in a positive or a negative light, and often while they are still in the restaurant. And so it becomes difficult for us to manage our reputations of our business, and added to this, we have staff who are doing the job for us. So social media has really had a huge impact on how we do our job, and the effect is immediate. I think as owners and shareholders in our businesses, there is an immense pressure now more than ever to deliver on profit. And so we have managers who need to meet revenue budgets and cost margins. And often these things are tied to financial incentives and bonuses. So it's easy to see how not meeting those can lead to some form of uncertainty about our earning power and also the future of our jobs. And so while it might seem like we're under siege on all fronts, we're a resilient bunch. I think hospitality in general, people are entrepreneurial, people are resilient. And so, you know, we want to collaborate and we want to work together so that we can create these harmonious environments for all of our staff. Finally, when you add the dynamic of COVID-19 into all of this in our industry, it really becomes very complex. The loss of jobs, retrenchment, reduced hours, reduced salaries, the difficulties that we're all having in dealing with UIF and TERS has all added to the burden of being in this industry. We think that we employ a large amount of foreigners, and that in itself has become a discussion point and a point of talking in our industry. And so it's clear to see that we can find a lot of more negatives and problems in our industry than positives. But as I say, we're a resilient bunch. And I'm hoping that through this kind of discussion, we can find ways that we can foster mental health and wellness. And lastly, the crucial thing that I wanted to add, and the thing that can have the biggest positive benefit for all of us when facing these challenges, and we can be responsible for that, the people on this panel, the type of people on this panel, and our listeners and viewers out there in general, is that we have ethical, moral and sensitive and nurturing leadership. I think it all begins with a sense of humanity. If we can treat each other as humans with inherent value, and not just as a resource to do a job or as a number on a payroll, I think we'll be going a long way to improve mental health and mental wellness in our industry. And I look forward to the discussions today from the panelists and from some of our listeners as to what we can do to make for better mental health and mental wellness in our industry.
Absolutely, Zaid.
Thank you.
And I think, thank you so much for your contribution there. I think this is a critical piece and so many things that we need to consider here today. And I think as the other panelists are going to come up now, I'm going to ask Karen just to prepare herself in the meantime for her question that I'll put to her, that, you know, one of the key things there was around resilience. And I think that is a critical aspect, characteristic amidst the complexities that the restaurant industry is facing. So Karen, I'm going to ask you, and I know we've just got to keep a tight eye on our time. So could you please help us understand, how do most people manage their stress and mental health in the industry, especially working in the kitchen and front of house? Karen, thank you so much for your inputs.
Jenny, Zaid has just kind of pulled that all together so well. And what I need to point out as well is that many of the stalwarts of the industry, being the prep people and the choppers and the washer uppers, don't know what mental health is. It's kind of like, we just work. We just know how to work. They don't actually feel they have the right to mental health. So all the resources that more privileged people kind of can have access to, they cannot use. And Zaid, said quite rightly that often people are just regarded as resources, and they are validated because they're just Trojan workhorses, and they're just validated for work. And I think this is a critical point in that it kind of just heightens the escalated anxiety that people live with and huge stress. So people bring the stress of an incredibly violent home life. Someone got shot on my stairwell. The police were too scared to pick him up. They could only get him in the morning. My children, there's a gang in my children's school, the children's primary school, terrorizing the kids and the teachers. So those kind of socioeconomic stresses are brought into the kitchen, where there's, to be honest, often quite happy, good stress that we need to get things done. But it often just escalates that whole feeling of anxiety and stress that people live with on a daily basis. Just the violence of getting to work in the morning on a taxi at like 5 o'clock in the morning. We need to acknowledge all those things that people bring with them. And often what happens is that stress comes out in other ways. So often it's sickness and illness, and I can't come in because I have stomach troubles. And there's a lot of kind of distraction and worry because just this background building anxiety is there. Often people will do a lot of self-medicating to kind of create a release for that anxiety. So on the weekend, it's like major drinking, not just a little bit of drinking, major drinking, as some kind of release for the pent-up anxiety that just carries on. And in the industry, what happens is that the kitchen actually becomes a bit of a respite, a bit of a release, because it's something you can do, and it's physical, and you're working, and you that's what you're validated for too. So working is actually fun in the kitchen. We cook for fun. And so the family and the collaboration in the kitchen becomes a great release for people. And as Katie and Zaid pointed out, we are incredibly resilient. We know exactly what to do. We love to feed people. So it's kind of the balance of trying to kind of basically stave off the anxiety that people have often brought from home. And so alcohol is an issue because that is a release. I myself have not experienced the drug side of things, but I'm sure that happens as well. The other thing is that people are often trapped in the cycle of poverty. And so with this kind of not any sort of recognition, they get caught in destructive relationships. And these things also affect their work life. So they're often distracted, a little bit cut off from things. Often, I think also in different kitchens, there's the whole struggle of recognition and kind of working really hard, and fairness becomes a real huge issue. And that is something that a kitchen that works well can really kind of provide healing there. Yeah, and so this kind of bottled anxiety just kind of escalates, bringing all these socioeconomic factors as well into our work lives. So, the kitchens also can provide such healing. To be honest, there's another family where you get to do what you must do, and there's a place to eat together with other people and to be together, and there's kind of respect for the work that you do. Which is kind of completely different from the stress outside of the kitchen. So yes, I would say that self-medicating is a real issue. Feelings of low self-esteem is a real problem. And I think there are definite and great ways that we can help people get access to resources that can help. So things that we would more privileged people have access to, which is like for me, a walk on the mountain with my dogs. Other people don't have access to. Yoga, your average washer-upper does not have access to that. So we need to find other ways that people can be recognized, affirmed, feel that there's fairness, and get healing from these incredibly high levels of anxiety.
Fantastic, Karen. Thank you so much. Appreciate, again, your contribution, your valuable insight shared. I think we realize that the struggles are real. This is our realities that we are facing, but hopefully during the conversations today and the Q&A later, we hopefully as a collective can find ways and means and tools and resources that we can have access to make a real difference out there. So I'm going to look to Liam now, and I'm going to ask Liam if he can also come in and just succinctly just speak to how has COVID-19 impacted the industry in terms of mental health issues. And again, just also from your perspective, Liam, focusing and working in franchise, small business, fine dining, if you can just share some of your thoughts, please. Thank you, Liam.
Thanks. I think Katie, Zaid, Karen have covered, a huge amount of issues that we all have been dealing with long before COVID. I think COVID has just made everything a lot worse, a lot more difficult, a lot more problems. But a lot of people have asked me, obviously during COVID, how I've coped with it, because we've got 6 businesses, 5 here in South Africa, 1 in Barcelona. So we've over 200 staff. And they were asking me how I've sort of kept such a level head and the whole thing. But I've been through a lockdown before myself, where I personally put myself into lockdown. I lost business in Australia through a very bad partnership that went very sour. So I all of a sudden went from being the #1 chef in Australia, Restaurant of the Year in Australia, to losing everything, our business, our home, everything. And it really, really, really affected me badly, really badly. I basically put myself into lockdown for a year. I didn't want to see anybody. I went into deep depression. I couldn't see any way out of the situation that I was in. My career was over. I'd lost my confidence. I could never cook again. Like all these horrible thoughts go through your mind. But I was very, very fortunate. You know, something Karen said is there's a lot of people out there who aren't fortunate enough that they can go climb the mountain with their dogs or go and do yoga or whatever. But I was very fortunate. I got a very strong wife, and I've got a very strong network of family and friends who watched out for me, looked after me, and rebuilt my confidence. And I think out of all of this, I know the situations people are in are desperate. Like they really, really are desperate. I can see it every day. Like the amount of messages I get every day from young people looking for work. I mean, they're absolutely desperate. But the only thing I can say to everybody is, you know, I know it's difficult, but time is the best healer. It's not alcohol, it's not drugs, it's not self-abuse, it's time. Time is the only healer. You know, our industry will rebuild. We're rebuilding already. We're open again. Business isn't what it was, but you know, we're back at work. We will start creating more jobs as we get a bit busier, as people get more confidence. People will get re-employed. So it's a time thing, and we must remember also, you know, I felt very alone all those years ago when I lost my businesses in Australia. And I was alone because I lost my business. Nobody else around me had lost their business or lost a job or lost their home or whatever. I lost everything. And I was very, very alone. Whereas now I feel we're all in the same sort of position. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. This isn't something that we brought upon ourselves. This is something that was completely out of all of our control and still is out of all our control. We still don't know how bad it's going to get, or if we're going to get a second peak here, a second wave or whatever. I think it's really incredibly important we start looking out for each other. Before lockdown, we were about to launch a foundation that we put together called Mind Your Backs. And it was very much for the people Karen talks about who can't afford to get help, who don't have access to private healthcare, etc. And we are going to continue with that, and we're going to relaunch it as soon as we can. But I just think in our industry, we've all got to start looking out for each other a little bit more. We've got to look at the guy standing next to us to make sure he's okay. We've got to look out for the signs. I think we need to try and look at it for signs of, you know, changes in people's mood, in anxiety, etc. And we just need to have more empathy towards each other and help each other as much as we can. Things will get better. I mean, for me, time is the biggest healer, no matter what you're going through in life. If it's a death, if it's a loss, if it's COVID, whatever it is, time, you just have to give it a bit of time.
Absolutely. Liam, thank you so much again for your contribution. Those are absolutely valuable insights that you shared there. And I think just taking some key words that you've mentioned there around, we need to look out for each other. We need to have each other's back. We really, you know, time is a healer. And I think there were some nice key points that you mentioned around having a network of friends, you know, having that support system in place. And I think that leads very nicely into the next question that I'm going to ask for Fazlin, just to prepare herself, just to help us understand, again, just watching our time. Fazlin, what are some of the best practices and solutions to the stress? Because we can hear that coming up time and time again. The stress management that the industry is needing because it's facing in terms of mental health and wellness. Thank you, Fazlin. I'm handing over to you now.
Thank you, Jenny. I think the industry that we're in, especially focusing on our sit-down franchise, I think we are yet to scrape the surface of employee-assisted programs and mental health. If we look at trends internationally, the restaurant brands and their wellness portfolios include amazing programs. The few that I've enjoyed watching and enjoyed just taking a few guidelines from was the Giving Kitchen, which aids in employees structuring their financial spend more effectively, so holistically looking at money differently. Living La Vida without the loca. This program provides staff with options to make smarter lifestyle choices. And then also Fit Squad, focusing on promoting physical wellness. So these are just to name a few. All the above global wellness programs are coached and practiced by mentored, qualified specialists in the field. I think the possibilities are endless for us. The access to funds is limited. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have to use our resources to the full extent. I think internationally, the opportunity to create a team of happy, fulfilled staff is embedded in their behavior and in turn the culture of the restaurant. When we come back home in South Africa, I believe we need to shift our approach of mental health from shame to strength. We have so many obstacles that work against us, including the current COVID pandemic, which we are currently trying to navigate through in the industry and out of the industry. The biggest challenges we face is our environment, our cultures, the deafening denial of what mental health is, and the lack of knowledge. The next is budget and investment. I think we hold margins and profits at a higher regard than mental health of our people. And the lack of skill sets in our leaders. In my world, the phrase that I hold very close to my heart is that the fish rots from the head down. So our leaders in the industry are accountable for this change, and we need to start shifting that behavior. And lastly, the biggest challenge in South Africa is the silent awareness of mental health. We should be screaming louder, we should be banging our pots in the streets, we should be throwing plates more, we should just be making a louder noise around mental health, what it is, what it stands for, and how do we support it. To name a few approaches that we have taken within the Ocean Basket brand, in-store and at head office, we have a lot of Ocean Basket rituals that guide us and acknowledge and manage mental health. A few examples are family team meetings, we eat together, we eat the same meals, we have a support team that is in constant contact with franchisees, managers and staff. We provide access to our leaders and managers to an 0800 call center number. It's available 24/7 for any people-related questions, queries, etc. that they can closely manage and have that structured support. This also guides us as a people team to maintain brand standards and approach for compliance. And what it's done, it has shifted our approach from becoming reactive to challenges to more proactive to rectify or support those challenges. We've connected with like-minded people in the industry who are passionate about healthcare to customize employee-assisted programs that support employees in focusing on their mental, physical, financial, and emotional health. They have access to psychologists, whether it's counselors for mental support, emotional support that are available to them and their families. We've also partnered with the leading banking solution in South Africa, where we have tailored products for our employees, making obviously the financial element of their lives a bit less stressful. We do encourage responsible citizenships, especially within the industry we work with and the caliber of employee that we have. We try to promote responsible citizenship, and we have tailor-made various programs to start implementing that in the future. First and foremost, the most important for us is the post-traumatic COVID stress. We haven't, like I said, scratched the surface on how we're going to not even solve or just support that function. To end, I think there's a huge pride factor in our industry. Our people are afraid or do not know when they need to ask for help. we must be the ambassadors that drive this change behavior around mental health and what it is. I think mental awareness should be a constant ingredient in the recipe of our business. It should hold the same weight as profit and margins, and people who feel safe and valued produce better results. I think we have to weave wellness into the words we speak and the behavior we show and the examples we set. So yeah, just keep swimming. Get above water.
Absolutely, Faz, thanks so much. I think that was hugely valuable insights. I think that you shared in your contribution there. Again, just some absolutely critical things that we need to carry through as themes that have emerged through all the contributions thus far from the panel. You know, just that accountability sitting with our leaders. We need to hold our leaders accountable, and it starts at the top. I think change starts with you, starts with me, starts with all of us. We definitely need to be talking more about mental health and wellness. Like you said, we need to be shouting from the rooftops. More and more such conversations need to be had. And support, you know, through your traditional EAPs or coming up with new types of wellness initiatives, campaigns, programs, really need to be top of mind. We can't just be saying it and speaking it, we need to see it in action. Thank you so much for that valuable contribution. I appreciate that so much. I'm going to ask Alison, please, I think this is, you know, right for you to talk to this very succinctly, Alison. How do we even begin the process of change? And we heard that come up now, that word change, to move forward and shape a mentally healthy industry. Thank you, Alison.
Thanks so much. So I think, you know, just acknowledging that there's a problem is starting the process, because by acknowledging and saying, yes, there's a problem here, what are we going to do about it? And when it comes from leaders, where we see wonderful leaders on this panel in the industry who are saying there's a problem here and who are being authentic in this space, that is when change happens. And I think that's the encouragement to all people who, whether you're restaurant owners, whether you are, you know, a group owners, whether you're in the kitchen itself, as leaders, wherever you are, to be authentic about your mental health, where you are. Are you struggling? Are you like on the brink of burnout, or have you experienced a burnout? And how can you actually speak and encourage others and walk alongside others who are experiencing the same? So when there's authenticity and where there's acknowledgement, that's when change can begin. I think some practical things from an education level, educating your staff. And this doesn't have to be fancy big programs either. It's about getting maybe just someone in who can just speak to the physiological impact of stress on our bodies. Because I think when people understand what's happening in your body, when you are struggling with mental health, and understand that there's a link between your body and your head, you can't separate the two. When you understand that, it removes the stigma, because you just think, well, okay, actually there's a whole lot going on here. It's not just something I need to kind of snap out of or get over it or kind of, you know, push through. It's about understanding that there's a whole lot going on that can be addressed, and that it's okay then to get help. Maybe there's something that, you know, maybe you need medication, maybe you need to talk it out. So the education about what is going on and people understanding that is really, for me, one of the key things to breaking stigma and to helping people see that it's okay to get help. I think also providing support is a big one. And I think it's fantastic if you can afford to have big EAP programs and iCares and the Happy Company. Those big ones are great to have, and it's wonderful. Companies that are doing that, I think it's key. But for the smaller companies, let's say the small, you know, coffee shop, or the smaller companies that aren't able to afford those big programs, a mentorship program or a buddy system. I know Liam has mentioned some of the things that they're doing, having a buddy system within. So people check in on each other, or have a meeting at the end of every week or beginning of every week to say, hey guys, let's check in. How's it going? How's it genuinely going? Because if we don't speak openly and honestly about it, you know, it just hangs there like a cloud. And that's when people start to turn to other things to numb the feelings because they can't share it. So that for me is really important in the kitchen and in any work environment, really. And then also, and so this is twofold, it comes to the professional aspect, but then it comes to the personal aspect. And sometimes it's very easy for us to say, complain about the employer or our boss, but we all have a responsibility to take care of ourselves. And it comes down to our self-awareness, and it comes down to self-care. And self-awareness is making sure that we have someone who's holding us accountable, someone who we say, listen, just keep an eye on me. If you know you're struggling, then get someone to come alongside you and walk the road with you. And so, yeah, the self-awareness and then the self-care is the 5 pillars of looking at physical, eating, sleep, all those habits. The intellectual, excuse me, the emotional, the spiritual, and the social aspects. Those 5 pillars that you're checking in on those and saying, am I getting balance here? And how can I do that? And looking at how you can then help others within your business, make sure that they are checking in on themselves as well. So I think really that sums it up for me.
Awesome. Alison, thank you so much. I know I wish we all had more time. That was very, very useful indeed. And I think I just loved some of your key things there: authentic leadership, acknowledge where we're at, impact and understanding what is happening in our bodies, education and empowerment. So thank you so much to all our amazing panelists for your contribution. That was so insightful. Just one quick reminder, if you haven't yet put in your details in the chat box for the prize draw, this is your last reminder. Before I'm going to hand over now to Chef Craig Elliott, our Executive Chef, Unilever Food Solutions from Fair Kitchens. And we're going to turn our attention now to this endorsement video interview with Chef James Causa. Thank you very much.
James, you've endorsed the Fair Kitchens movement. Why do you think a movement like this is so important for our industry?
We need to change with times. In the times that we were training us, my age group, it was okay to be tough, to be pushed around. But right now, we have different people coming up. And so we need to evolve. The kitchen must evolve with the behavior of people. Improving teamwork, improving consistency in terms of communication. I think if we talk about values as well, we talk about respect and trust and making sure that the people believe in the profession as a chef.
A question to you, when you introduce the Fair Kitchens into your kitchen,
yes,
and how are you going to hold yourself responsible?
From my side, the responsibility and accountability is to me, to make sure that I support it. I don't just say it, I practice it, I walk it every day. Then people, if they see that I'm doing what I'm saying, it's easier for them to embrace the Fair Kitchens concept. I think that's the only way to do it, to be part of it, to walk with every day, yeah. And to be an example of fairness in the kitchen.
Good morning to you all. I'm the head chef at Unilever Food Solutions, and we are a supporter of the Fair Kitchens movement. The idea behind it is to create this an inspiring place where the kitchen culture would be better for all. And with this, we've partnered up with a couple of people. That was James Causa from the South African Chefs Association. He's the president currently. And we have the huge backing. They've got over 7,000 members. So we're really pushing out the message, where they can get help from. The South African Depression and Anxiety Group are also partnering with us. And then obviously today is Work Mind Matters with this fantastic webinar they've put together as well. There is a toll-free number, which is 24/7. We have professional people manning the line. And I do think this is a great initiative. I think many people have you heard today, there are serious problems out there. And I do think this has come at the right time. I will tell you the number, 08800000633. And like I said, the stats are crazy what's out there. When you talk about, they're saying over 70 chefs feel sleep deprived, point of exhaustion, 63% of them report suffering from depression, 1 in 4 chefs suffer from abuse. And James is so right. When we were trainees, etc., there was this like huddle between, pushing the guys around. And unfortunately, that has to all change, and we all have to get serious. As a team in a kitchen, you cannot work in a kitchen without having your team being able to talk openly. You've got to excite that passion, obviously mentor people. It's all about putting education back behind it. And I think acting as one is a perfect example. If your kitchen runs like a clockwork as a team, one team, you'd be able to do anything. And I've seen it many, many times in good kitchens. Making time, taking breaks, getting out. I remember a chef saying the other day, he says, go and pick a leaf off a tree and come back, and then you can start again. And also another thing is that the people are forgotten is, say, well done, good job, fantastic. People are looking for that recognition. And we do know we work extremely long hours. And if you're passionate, it is nice and exciting to go into work. But unfortunately, when you clock off, I remember the days. God, I used to see sunlight and then go to work the next day again at 6 in the morning. It was crazy. And that's real. And it's still happening today. So what I can love to say to all of you out there is the change starts with you. And it's okay not to be okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chef Craig. That was very, very insightful. I mean, those statistics are quite scary, but again, these are the realities that we are dealing with. I think now I'm going to ask us, I think all our participants are going to come into the platform, and I really want to encourage everybody that is online to keep your video on if you're comfortable to do that, because we're going to go into our Q&A now. I know that we are running a bit short on our time and it is tight, so we might not be able to answer every single question. I've just seen so many questions coming up on the chat and in the Q&A. So I'm just going to say that up front. I think just due to time, if we can't get to everybody's questions, please just know that we've seen them, we acknowledge you, and we will commit to getting back to you. So what I'm going to do is just put some questions out. Again, just be mindful of time. And I'm going to actually ask, let me just get rid of that. I'm actually going to ask Zaid if he doesn't mind just talking to one specific question. And I might have another 2, just again, conscious of time. The question is, we're a small restaurant with not much budget. That has been left after COVID and really just fighting to keep our business going after being closed for months. What would you recommend, Zaid, 1 or 2 things that we can do to take care of mental health and well-being of our staff, as well as our own? Zaid, do you mind just talking to that very, very high level? Just some thoughts. Zaid, sorry, Zaid. Sorry, I'm getting the names confused. Zaid, if you don't mind just talking to just high level, 1 or 2 things that come to mind.
Thank you, Jenny. I think that's a great question. I think so many of our restaurateurs find themselves in that position. A big weight of our industry is at the single outlet level, family-owned restaurants, a small restaurant of a few people, and we don't necessarily have the access to the EAP programs that Fazlin has mentioned or some of the bigger corporates have access to. But it's really very, very simple things. For me, it starts with authentic leadership. Sensitive and nurturing leadership. Take an interest in your staff. Take the effort to find out about their home life. Take the effort to make them feel valued and valuable. You know, when you have an interest in where someone lives, what their kids are doing, what their wife is doing, how it's going at school, it really conveys a sense of value and there's a genuine connection. There are other things we can do that don't necessarily cost us much money. Ensure that your team is taking proper breaks away from the workplace. You know, we have the desire that we've got to work, but rest is important. So send them out of your kitchen, send them out of your restaurant. Give them access to a healthy meal that we can all sit down together as a team and we can eat together and we can connect on a real social level. Be ethical and honest about what we are all paying our staff, and look deep and look hard inside of ourselves and say, are we paying a living wage or are we enabling them to survive? We want people to live, we don't want people to survive. Look at a team that's big enough so people can have proper shifts and proper time off. Include people in your business and share your vision and share what you have in mind and share your goals so that they can feel included and they can feel valued and they can feel engaged. So those are just a few things that don't necessarily cost much, but are quite easy for us to achieve, and is quite an easy thing to do that can pull our teams together and make us all feel like we're part of what we're doing. And that for me is critical, that we all feel a shared sense of ownership and we all feel part of what we're doing.
Absolutely. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Zaid, for your inputs onto that key critical question. I think I'm going to just quickly ask Alison one last thing, and then we are going to move into our draw, because that's the most exciting part. And again, just thanking everybody that has participated in the draw. We are going to do our selecting our winner shortly. But Alison, if you could just very quickly and succinctly, a question, and I know burnout and stress management and all of that has come up a lot. You know, could you please just let us know some of the symptoms of burnout and how do we recognize this, you know, in ourselves and in others? Thank you, Alison.
So I think burnout can creep up on us really quickly without us even realizing, because often when a burnout is on its way, we ignore the signs. And some of the signs are, there's that underlying anxious feeling, there's that sense of irritability, that feeling of disillusionment, kind of losing interest in work, not being able to engage, feeling detached, wanting to be a little bit more on your own as it gets worse. And then starting to really battle to concentrate when it gets really bad. To really even, and that sense of anxiety just gets worse and worse and worse. It often impacts on your sleep for some people. And again, it can be very personal, because for some people, you know, we have physical symptoms that are strange, that we're like, ooh, what's that? Like, why am I feeling tingling, or why am I trembling, or why am I, you know, there's so many, getting a hoarse voice perhaps. But there's so many symptoms that can creep in with individuals, just depending on the individual. And it's about catching those when they start and realizing that the body's saying, you need a rest. You need to take time to recover. Because if you don't, it gets into a perpetual cycle, which then ends up very often leading to a full-blown anxiety, a depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, because those initial signs have been ignored once too many times for too long.
Okay. Alison, thank you very much again for those wonderful insights shared. So again, just we've come to the end. I can't believe it. It feels like we can go on and on and on and just keep talking about this, such a vital discussion that is needed in the restaurant industry. But thank you to every single person that joined today, that participated in the chat, in the Q&A, our panelists, our amazing panelists. Chef Craig, thank you so much for that, that wonderful interview with Chef James Causa. The statistics that you shared with us just brings and just heightens everything for us here. Thank you, Katie. That heartfelt story brought tears to my eyes. I'm still so, so emotional, because it really just, makes this so important. These discussions are needed. Stories need to be told. And yes, maybe we don't have all the answers in these unprecedented times that we are all facing, but collectively, together, we can make a real difference. And I want to thank Addison and Ron in the background and Work Mind Matters for the wonderful work that they are doing, and also for Mariana, Carol, and Michelle for the wonderful work and the platform that they created so we could have this online session today. So thank you everybody for your valuable input, your time, your commitment your comments. We really hope that you've gained valuable insights today. And lastly, just remember, the way your mind works matters. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you at our next session. So please look out for more of these to come. Thank you and take care. Big hug to everybody and have a wonderful Monday further. Thank you.
Do you see a place for fair kitchens in the industry going forward?
Very much so. I think that too many of our kitchen are too high pressure. I think that the businesses are putting too much pressure onto chefs, onto the productions, onto the standards, onto timings. So I think definitely that chefs will really need that.